Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Ilya binti Muhammad Zamri and my metric number is 298774. So today I'll be presenting about quiz 3 for subject International. Question 1. Currency appreciation or strengthening is happen when the currency value is increased. So import goods will be relatively cheaper to the domestic country and the export will be relatively expensive to the foreign currency. For example, RM is strengthening against AUD. So the last month exchange rate was 1 AUD equals to RM 4 ringgit 70 cents, and now the exchange rate is 1 AUD equals to RM 4 ringgit 50 cents. So in this case, Malaysian they need less RM to buy 1 AUD. Currency weakening or depreciation is happen when the currency value is decreased. So import goods will be relatively expensive and they can buy less import goods and services. And the export will be relatively cheaper to the foreign currency. For example, RM is weakening against AUD. So the last month the exchange rate was 1 AUD equals to RM 4 ringgit 50 cents, and now the exchange rate is 1 AUD equals to RM 4 ringgit 70 cents. So in this case, Malaysian they will need more RM to buy 1 AUD. So the fundamental distinction between nominal and real exchange rate lie in what they measure. The nominal exchange rate is the rate at one currency can be exchanged for another. It reflects market prices in terms of foreign exchange without adjusting for inflation, while the real exchange rate is the adjusted nominal exchange rate to account for price level differences. It reflects the relative purchasing power and competitiveness between domestic and foreign goods. For example, the nominal exchange rate is 1 USD equals to RM 4 ringgit 50 cents, and inflation in US is 2% while Malaysia is 6%. So for the real exchange rate, the formula is nominal exchange rate times with price of foreign over price of domestics. So we will get 4 ringgit 50 cents times with 102 over 106, and the answer is RM 4 ringgit 33 cents. The real exchange rate. So the spot market is when people exchange currencies immediately on that day using the current exchange rate, and usually it is used by the tourists who need to make payment immediately. But forward market is when the two parties agree to exchange currencies at a fixed rate on a future date. For example, a Malaysian manufacturing company need to pay 600 USD in 3 months to import machines from US. So if the company use the spot market and let's say RM weakens from RM 4 ringgit 50 cents to RM 4 ringgit 70 cents for 1 USD, the company will end up need to pay RM 2,820,000, and if the company choose the forward market today and lock with the price of RM 4 ringgit 55 cents for 1 USD, the company need to pay for RM 2,730,000 instead of RM 2,820,000. So the company will save RM 90,000 if they choose forward market. For the real exchange rate formula, the nominal exchange rate times with foreign CPI over domestic CPI. For the initial real exchange rate, RM 3 ringgit 80 cents times with 100 over 105, and we will get RM 3 ringgit 62 cents. And for the final real exchange rate, RM 3 ringgit 60 cents times with 102 over 110, and we will get RM 3 ringgit 34 cents. So the real exchange rate falls from RM 3 ringgit 62 cents to RM 3 ringgit 34 cents, which means goods from Malaysia relatively will become cheaper compared to Japan goods and become more competitive. For the local return, we take 150,000 times with 1.02. So how do we get 1.02 is we plus 1 and the 2%. And then we will get RM 153,000 for the local return. While the UK return, first we have to convert from RM to British pound. So we take 150,000, we divide with 5.50, and we will get 27,272.73 British pound. Then we take the total times with 1.032. So how do we get 1.032? Is the same with the local return just now. We just add 1 with 3.2%, and we will get 28,145.46 British pound. Then we convert back to RM. So we take 28,145.46 times with 5.30, and we will get RM 170.94 ringgit Malaysia. So it is better to invest in Malaysia even though the return rate is higher at UK, because we will get extra RM 3,829.06 cents if you invest in Malaysia. Question 7. Explain what it means to hold a long versus short forward position in the context of foreign exchange contracts. Give examples involving RM over British pound. So for long forward position is when you agree to buy foreign currency at a set rate in the future. For instance, a Malaysian company they agree to buy British pound at RM 5 ringgit 55 cents to 1 pound sterling in 3 months to pay at UK supplier. If the British pound rises above RM 5 ringgit 50 cents, the company will get benefit for paying at cheaper prices. For a short forward position is when you agree to sell foreign currency at a set rate in future. For example, a UK exporter to Malaysia agree to sell British pound at RM 5 ringgit 50 cents to 1 pound sterling in 3 months. If the British pound falls below RM 5 ringgit 50 cents, their profit will decrease. Calculate the annualized forward premium or discount and state whether RM is trading at a premium or discount. So, the formula of forward discount or forward premium is forward minus spot rate divide with spot rate times with 12 over the terms or the month and times with 100. Then we'll get 3.05 minus with 3 and divide with 3 times with 12 over 9 times 100, and we will get 2.22%. So the forward rate is higher than the spot rate. So meaning that RM is trading at discount against Australian dollar. In 9 months, we need more RM to buy Australian dollar, which indicates depreciation of RM. So for the forward contract, the formula is amount to receive times with forward rate. So we take the 100,000 times with 5.08 and we will get RM 508,000. And for the future spot rate, we take the amount to receive times with future spot rate. So 100,000 times with 5.20 and we will get 520,000 ringgit Malaysia. So if the company lock forward rate, it will not give benefit for the company since they lost RM 12,000 if the company lock with forward rate. Absolute purchasing power parity states that the price level of a basket of goods should be the same in two countries when expressed in common currency, while relative purchasing power parity is focused on changes in price levels over time and says that the rate change in exchange rate between two currencies should be equal the difference in inflation rates between two countries. So the main differences is absolute purchasing power parity focus on price levels, but relative purchasing power parity focus on inflation rates over time. And absolute purchasing power parity used to explain long-term exchange rate, while relative purchasing power parity explains changes in exchange over time. If absolute purchasing power parity is valid based on this data. So for APPP, the formula is price of domestic over price of foreign. So for this example, we take 4,500 divide with 1,000 and we will get RM 4 ringgit 50 cents to 1 USD. Absolute purchasing power parity is not applied in this case because it does not hold. The actual rate is higher than implied rate, which is APPP, which means that RM is weaker than what APPP predicts, and price of laptop relatively will be expensive in US when converted to RM. So for the APPP, price of domestic over price of foreign. So we'll take 60 over 40 and we'll get 1.5 USD dollar to 1 British pound. Then the APPP rate is 1.5 US dollar to 1 British pound, and the actual exchange rate is 1.4 US dollar to 1 British pound. At actual exchange rate, pound is undervalued relative to APPP. If we convert 60 USD in pounds at actual exchange rate, we will get 42.86 British pounds. And how do we get it is we divide 60 divide with 1.4, but the same book costs only 40 British pound in UK. So the arbitrage opportunity exists because we buy book in the UK for 40 British pound and convert to USD $56 at 1.4 USD to 1 British pound. So if we sell it in US for 60 US dollar, the profit that we get is 4 US dollar for one book. A jacket costs 100 Swiss francs in Switzerland and 90 US dollars in the US. If the current exchange rate is 1 Swiss franc equals to 0.85 US dollars, assess if arbitrage exists. What should the exchange rate to be eliminate the opportunity? So for the absolute purchasing power parity, as usual, price of domestic over price of foreign. So we take 90 over 100 and we will get 0.9 US dollar to 1 Swiss francs. So the APPP rate is 0.9 US dollar to 1 Swiss francs, and the actual exchange rate is 0.85 US dollar to 1 Swiss francs. The actual exchange rate is lower than implied rate, meaning that the Swiss francs is undervalued or jacket is cheaper in Switzerland when converted back to USD. The convert price of jacket is 85 USD. So how do we get 85? Is 0.85 times with 100, but the same jacket costs 90 USD in the US. So arbitrage exists because the jacket is cheaper in Switzerland, and to eliminate arbitrage, exchange rate should be 0.9 US dollar to 1 Swiss francs. Question 22. Using demand and supply concepts in the foreign exchange market, explain how RM over Japanese yen exchange rate is determined. Include a labeled graph to support your explanations. So for the first one is demand for Japanese yens. Malaysians demand for Japanese yen when they want to import goods from Japan, travel or studying in Japan, or investing there. So they need to sell RM to buy Japanese yen, and this will increase the demand for Japanese yen. Thus, Japanese yen appreciates and RM depreciates. Next, for the supply of Japanese yens. So Japan will supply Japanese yen when they want to import Malaysian goods, traveling or investing in Malaysia. To do so, they need to sell Japanese yen to buy RM, and leads to increase in supply of Japanese yen, and Japanese yen will depreciate. And the RM over Japanese yen is determined at the point where the quantity of Japanese yen demanded is equal to the quantity of Japanese yen supplied. Using uncovered interest parity (UIP), calculate the expected future spot exchange rate after 1 year. So for the formula of expected exchange rate is spot rate times with 1 plus inflation rate of foreign over inflation rate of domestic. So 5.3 times 1.045 divide with 1.025. So we will get RM 5 ringgit 40 cents. The expected rate after 1 year is RM 5 ringgit 40 cents to 1 British pounds, which means RM will slightly depreciate against British pound due to lower interest rate. So question 27, derive the condition for real interest parity by integrating the Fisher equation, relative purchasing power parity, and uncovered interest parity. Clearly explain each steps and its economic implication. So for the first one, Fisher equation, it links nominal interest rate with real interest rate and expected inflation. So this is the formula I equals to R plus expected inflation, and we apply these to two countries, for example Malaysia and US, as you can see I've written down in this slides. Next is relative purchasing power parity, which says that expected change in the exchange rate reflects the inflation differential. So the formula is expected future spot rate minus initial spot rate divided with initial spot rate, and we will get expected inflation of RM minus expected inflation of USD. Next is uncovered interest parity, which relates interest rate differentials to the expected change in exchange rate. So the formula is expected future spot rate minus initial spot rate divided with initial spot rate, and we will get interest of RM minus interest of USD. Next, we equate the RPPP and the UIP. Since the relative purchasing power parity and uncovered interest parity define the expected rate of depreciation or appreciation of the currency, we can equate that interest rate of RM minus interest rate of USD equals to expected inflation of RM minus expected inflation of USD. Then we substitute from Fisher equation. So nominal interest rate of RM equals to real interest rate of RM plus expected inflation of RM, and nominal interest rate of USD equals to real interest rate of USD plus expected inflation for USD. Then we bring the expected inflation to the right and real interest rate to the left. So we will get real interest rate of RM minus real interest rate of USD equals to 0, and the final will be real interest rate of RM is equal to real interest rate of USD. So real interest parity implies that real interest rates are equal across countries in the absence of capital controls, risk, and also arbitrage.